I love character action games. It's a niche genre, which has its drawbacks. Being niche means it's hard to find titles that don't come from Capcom or Platinum. I like to keep an eye on those games because I think that genre needs diversity to thrive in the market. That's why I covered Scarlet Nexus and Samurai Jack Battle Through Time. And that's why I'm covering Assault Spy. Assault Spy is a 2018 character action game developed by Wazen and published by Nippon Ichi Software of America. You play as either Asaru Vito or Amelia Amelia Smith.
エージェントアサル？
エージェント？
まあそんなようなものです。
わお、奇遇ね。私は CIA エージェントのアメリア・スミス。救難要請を受けてアメリカから飛んできたってわけよ。そうしたらすっかりドンパチに巻き込まれちゃってね。いつものことだけど。
Either way, you're a spy infiltrating Negabot, the world's largest robot producing company. Some weird stuff is going on at their headquarters, and it's up to either Asaru or Amelia to save the day. First, I'll talk about Asaru, and then I'll move on to Amelia. Asaru Vito works for an unnamed agency. He's had a string of bad luck lately because his rookie partner Kanoko Yotsuba doesn't take her job seriously, which results in Asaru cleaning up her mistakes. As a result, his performance has taken a massive dip, and he takes on the Negabot job to fix his reputation. There's no other way to say this. This is indie Devil May Cry. Just like Dante in DMC, Asaru's fighting style comprises of pause combos. By varying the time between attack inputs, Asaru can perform different combos. A standard string of attacks results in the basic combo, but putting a slight delay between certain intervals will result in different combo strings. Besides pause combos, Asaru also borrows from Virgil's fighting style in the form of just attacks. In DMC, when Virgil holds down the sword button with Yamato equipped, he unleashes a charge attack called a Judgment Cut. If Virgil releases a charge at the exact frame, he performs a Judgment Cut instantly, which is called a Just Cut. Each of Asaru's combos and attacks have just versions that add extra hits at the end of the combos. Asaru has to either hold down a button and release it on the frame, or delay a combo string and hit the next input on the exact frame. It's pretty easy to figure out the timing for just combos. It's like a half-second beat. However, some attacks have more generous timing than others. I can't pull off the prop shredder equivalent consistently because the timing is so strict. Asaru's arsenal comprises of a briefcase, business cards, and an umbrella. The briefcase is a standard weapon, which he uses mostly either for light attack or heavy attack combos. Asaru's umbrella serves as a heavier attack that has good damage at range, but leaves him open to enemy attacks. You're meant to combo into the umbrella, either through light or heavy attacks, or during a dash. When an enemy attacks, Asaru can dash at the right moment to avoid damage. Holding dash will cause Asaru to sprint. When Asaru deals and takes damage, he builds meter for overclock. Activating overclock slows down enemies and allows Asaru to stack damage that takes effect once overclock ends. Overclock doesn't need full meter in order to activate. In that sense, it's similar to Double Trigger in DMC. Besides his gear, Asaru can call up Kanoko to distract enemies. She can also perform attacks, but they're super expensive and you probably won't get them during the first run of the game. Asaru can use the money he gets from battles and fallen enemies to buy skills in the shop. If you don't like a particular move, you can buy it back and use that money for other skills. In that sense, the shop is similar to DMC4's Proud Souls. I love the enemy designs in the game. They're all meant to look like service robots that became evil. The basic units look like smartphones with arms and legs, and I love the expressions they make when you attack them. There are also walking traffic cones. These guys can absorb damage up front, so you'll have to attack them from behind. Their charge attack has more reach than you'd think, and they've got some poise in their attacks, so be careful when you've got a group of them bunched up near you. There are also Roombas, Segways, and drones to fill out the enemy roster. Some enemies are beefed up versions of basic units, and it's got that iterative design thing going on that some enemies had in Nier Automata. The level design is straightforward. You'll never have to guess where you need to go because every screen is either a fight room or a hallway, and the game points the way to progress whenever combat is complete. The environment art is deceptively minimalist. The backgrounds have a neutral white color scheme that reflects the cold, sterile nature of office buildings. It's kind of like The Dawn. A lot of work was put into making detailed environment objects blend into the setting. Asaru's story is pretty straightforward. Go to Negabot, take out the terrorists, and rescue the employees. He needs to open up a large gate by finding 4 keycards scattered about the company's headquarters. and then it can face the people responsible for the hostile takeover.
そうよ。なんだか知らないけど協力し合うのは大切なことじゃない？ NO! でかいゲートのせいで進めないじゃない。
ゲートを開くためにはまずセキュリティをクリアするためのキー認証を集めなければならん。
オッケー、わかったわ。そのパターンね。それなら慣れたものよ。
どうする気ですか？ちょっと
当然片っ端から敵をぶっ飛ばすだけよ。そうするといずれそのキーだかなんだかを持ってるやつもやっつけてるはずじゃないね。作戦は以上では、ヤッホー。
I love the voice work and sprite art of the characters. You can tell that Assault Spy has a smaller budget than contemporary titles, but it knows how to make good use of that budget. Each character has a distinct personality, and they bounce off each other nicely. Early into Asaru's campaign, he runs into Amelia, which unlocks her path. In my thinking about for Vanquish, I had a section set aside where I presented my theory that Shinji Mikami has a type. I always felt bad keeping that in, as I thought it was purely speculative, so I'm gonna make it right by disclosing my type. I love punch girls. If they're a girl and they punch, I love them. Bonus points if they wear a suit and hang their coat over their shoulders like a cape. Amelia is focus tested to pander to my tastes, and as much as I wanted to immediately drop Asaru and pick up Amelia, I held firm and finished Asaru's campaign before going into Unga mode. That was such a good call. Whenever a character action game features a secondary campaign, that campaign will end up in one of three ways. 1. The campaign is a full-on character swap, where the enemies and levels are exactly the same as in the main campaign. This is what happens to Virgil in every DMC title since 3. 2. The campaign is unique, but smaller in length and reuses assets from the main campaign. That's what happens in Blade Wolf's and Jetstream Sam's campaign in Metal Gear Rising. 3. The campaign follows a structure that's parallel to the main campaign, but takes pains to replace key moments so as to stay consistent with the main campaign's continuity. This is what happens at Scarlet Nexus. In fact, both paths mirror each other so well that neither path should be considered the main path. Emilia's campaign is a mashup of all three options. It's about as long as Asaru's campaign and follows the same structure, but something's off in Emilia's campaign, and the characters seem to notice. I won't go any further into the plot because I don't want to spoil the game for anyone interested. If Asaru is the default player path, then Emilia is a Virgil Jetstream Sam character. Different playstyle, and arguably the cooler of the two choices. Ame's loadout consists of a blaster called Galaxy Slayer, a spear weapon called Brave Braver, and last, but definitely not least, her fists. The blaster serves as the same function as Dante's or Nero's pistols. Good for some range damage, but not a weapon that Ame can rely on entirely. The Brave Braver works like the umbrella, and gives Ame stronger hits and longer range, while these are wide open for enemy attacks. But the real draw to playing Amelia are her fists. When she's dealing damage, she builds up voltage, displayed as a meter above her health. When Amelia charges up a light attack, she can spend some voltage to do an area of effect attack that launches enemies in the air. The more voltage in her meter, the wider the attack's radius. It's kinda like playing Sea Viper in Street Fighter 4. She can also mix up her combos with punches and kicks, and her combat feels a lot mashier compared to Asaru's. If Asaru is the DMC character, then Ame is the Bayonetta character. The most important skill in Emilia's moveset is her block. She can block any attack, and by holding it down for a little bit, Emilia will automatically send out a follow-up attack. If Asaru is the Trickster style in Assault Spy, then Emilia is Royal Guard. Emilia also has a super meter like Asaru. However, she needs to fill the meter up entirely before she can activate Super Emilia mode. She's invincible and has infinite voltage for the duration of the state. You can spend all of the meter in a charge attack, but be mindful of where the enemy is, because the attack's radius is pretty small. The cool thing about the super mode is that it synergizes with a gun skill that uses up all of the voltage meter. Instead of spending up all of Ame's voltage to do a move that can leave her exposed to enemy attacks, she can go super, shoot the hoop, and still have voltage in her meter when she's back to normal. Difficulty is pretty good for most of the game. Early levels introduce basic enemy types, and by the second act, stronger enemy types appear. There's a little bit of non-linearity in the second act because the game lets you choose the order in which you approach 3 of the keycard locations. Each area features a mini-boss midway through the zone, and a boss at the very end that guards a keycard. I like the boss designs, but hearing the game sample Quake multiplayer announcer voices did kill my immersion. I have one major gripe for the game, and it's that the gulf between S rank and A rank feels arbitrary. At the end of every fight, the game grades your performance based on the combos you chained, the time spent during the fight, and how many hits you took during the fight. In order to S rank a fight, you have to no damage the encounter. Just taking one hit is enough to cap your score at A rank, even if you pulled off an elaborate combo chain that hits SSS rank. I feel like the game places too much emphasis on damage compared to the other factors in the scoring system. It's not a big deal on a casual run, but if you are trying to get an S rank on every fight, it can get a little annoying. If you are trying to no damage every fight, you might want to consider disabling some of Asaru's dash attacks. The dash attacks resemble the directional attacks in DMC, but they've got some issues. What makes the directional attacks work in DMC is that you have to lock onto a target, which restricts Dante's movement so that he's always facing a target. Locking on is as easy as holding down R1, and just as easy to disable by releasing R1. The movement restriction is a temporary state to facilitate the execution of directional moves, like Stinger or High Time. The important takeaway about DMC's lock-on is that it's not meant to be always active. It's there to restrict Dante's movement temporarily, so that the player can execute a simple command move with distinct inputs. Asaru's dash attacks don't require any input on the left stick. Instead, you have to press an attack button immediately after a dash. The problem with this system is that the game has a tendency of interpreting certain inputs as dash attacks instead of basic combo openers, and it's all based on the delay between dashing and attacking. This wouldn't be so bad if Asaru could cancel out of his dash attacks, but they overcommit more than other moves. To put it simply, the game has a high chance of proccing a dash attack that can lock Asaru in a canned animation and leave him exposed to enemy attacks. That's why I think it's better to disable certain dash attacks. Again, this isn't that big of a deal in a casual run, but if you are trying to S-rank every fight, you start noticing these kinds of issues. The other complaint I have is that I feel like the transition between sprinting and regular walking feels awkward. Also, there's inertia when you stop from a dash, which isn't a problem for most of the game until the sneaking mission. Midway into the campaign, the game introduces a really basic stealth set piece to mix up the gameplay. It's not too bad, but one area had a really tight space where I had to land to avoid setting off the security cameras or worker robots. But I can forgive these shortcomings because the game just feels good to play. That's a quality that's hard to evoke, but you can feel it once you pick up the game. The hits look like they hurt, the enemies spin away in the air if you knock them up hard enough, and everything explodes in a shower of bright lights and currency. Also, each character has two taunts that are mapped to left and right on the D-pad. And, how can I hate a game that has taunting? Also, as a side note, I joke with friends about how Asaru looks like the Persona 3 protagonist, but once I got Amelia, I realized that she also looked too much like Aegis for it to be a coincidence. Hell, they both do the Naruto run when they sprint. I grew up in Persona 3, so that just made me love the game even more. Definitely play Assault Spy. It's everything I wanted from a character action game. Playing through both campaigns is really short, about 9 hours according to Steam, but the game really sticks to landing where it matters in terms of gameplay and story. I enjoyed this game so much that I included it in my absolute keynote list. I hope you enjoy it too.